Maranello on Ferrari's test track. It's the 25th of January 1998 and bitterly cold. Temperatures around freezing. Not exactly ideal conditions for a rollout. Because today the C17, the Red Bull Sauber Petronas team's latest car, is due to run for the first time. Over the past 20 weeks, the car has been thoroughly tested in the wind tunnel. The engine has run the equivalent of several races on the test bench. In theory, everything's working perfectly. But the technicians are also keen to see if the systems work together well on the track, whether the calculated performances can be achieved. There are dozens of sensors hidden in the car, registering every detail. The measured data are radioed to the engineers' computers, where they're analysed. And Johnny Herbert, too, can't wait to get a first impression at the wheel of the new Formula One car. He's one of the most experienced drivers around, has been driving for Sauber since 1996, knows the team and the test track. The C17 has been totally revised. Hardly a single part has been taken over from last season. As a result of the new technical regulations, this year's cars are 10% narrower and have different tyres. The Formula One drivers will have to get used to a difference in handling. Once the final preparations have been made on the car, everything's ready for the rollout. The power starts to surge from the 10 cylinders, and the C17, with its 750 horsepower Sauber Petronas engine, roars out onto the 3-kilometre-long track. The new car's first official run. And no problems despite the cold. For 3 full days, the car's put through a wide range of function tests. Teething troubles are eliminated, and Johnny Herbert gets his first experience of driving the new C17. Team principal Peter Sauber is at the track constantly observing the cars. The first lap times are promising, but with the new regulations it's very hard to make any predictions about the coming season. The new groove tyres have substantially less grip. Braking distances are longer and the car's slower in bends, an avowed aim of the regulations to make more overtaking possible in Formula One. But after the first few laps with the new C17, Johnny Herbert has his doubts.
Again, Formula One is very difficult because you have many different manufacturers, and there's always going to be a better manufacturer than the next one, and then there's always going to be the best, the second best, the third best team or chassis. So that's always going to be very difficult. With the rules, the way that they're trying to do it, I think is probably a very good way, because it tries to restrict what the big teams can do, and then the little teams have more of a chance. So that's a good factor. The making it closer racing maybe this year, we'll have to wait and see, but I don't expect it to be very different, because I think we still have the same thing where a chassis is better than the other chassis, and when you have one better, it's not possible to overtake the better chassis.
A few days before the rollout, the car was presented in public for the first time. The new banner carrier for a team that's been active in Formula One for just 5 years. So they're still newcomers. Their declared aim is to win races on their own before the year 2000. A goal that takes years to reach. It's an experience all teams go through, irrespective of whether their name's Williams, Jordan or Sauber. And the C17 is set to be yet another milestone on the way. Whether or not the car can profit from the changes in the regulations will become clear in the course of the season. The car has yet to develop its full potential.
We tried to gain back all the aerodynamic losses we had due to the new rules, and I think we achieved quite a lot of it. We are not 100% at the level of last year's car, but I think it doesn't take a lot of time, and from the aerodynamics we are at the same level, but we will further improve, and we put all our efforts in aerodynamic development. At the other end, we try to make the center of gravity as low as possible, because with a narrower track it's 20% narrower, 10% narrower, and that means basically we have to reduce the center of gravity also 10%. But this is technically not possible. But we did as much as we can to work in this direction.
The handicap of the new regulations was deliberate to make the Formula One cars slower and safer. But at least as regards speed, they won't be slower for very long. With every test, every new technical development, the cars will get faster again. The cost involved in keeping pace with technological developments almost defies description. At the production facility of the Red Bull Sauber Petronas team, a workforce of over 150 are involved in developing Formula One racing cars. Here it quickly becomes clear that Formula One's very much a high-tech field. Computers are everywhere. They've been indispensable in Formula One for a long time now. They're used in design, for analysing vehicle data, and also, for example, for this system, which the team can use before races to simulate the best possible lap times. With this simulator, we can also find out where we stand as compared to the competition. We can also enter data that we assume to be about what the competition has, and in this way we can check where we lose time compared with them, or what direction to take in developing the car further to make it quicker. The substance that everything here focuses on is black and is called carbon fiber. It's horrifically expensive, but it can be molded to any shape, is very stable, and above all, light. A lot of parts in a Formula One car are made of carbon fiber, and there are more of them all the time. It was first developed for use in space, and now it's helping to ensure that costs in Formula One reach astronomical heights. A set of brake discs, $5,000. A rear wing, $10,000. And finally, the most expensive component, the engine. For a long time, Ferrari were the only racing team that built their own. So Red Bull Sauber Petronas is the second Formula One team to develop its own engine. Initially still in collaboration with Ferrari, but in future the team will build its own engines complete. Even the C17's engine is quite a bit different from the Ferrari original. The engine's a mix of Ferrari, say 3/4, and 25% Sauber Petronas, designed in Hinwil. That is, everything that's below the crankshaft. The man responsible for the new engines is Osamu Goto, a name with an attractive resonance in Formula One. The engines he developed for Honda won world championships with McLaren.
Is it possible to beat Ferrari with their own engine?
At the moment, quite difficult, but our engine also positive point. Of course, the engine lot of positive point. For example, our engine is I think lighter and definitely shorter. We can't say how much power, but so quite a good step of improvement, top-end power.
The Formula One engine is being built by Sauber Petronas Engineering AG, a joint venture between Sauber and the Malaysian oil company Petronas. An engine for a series production car is also being developed, a powerful four-cylinder to be marketed under the Petronas brand name. The cooperation between Sauber and Petronas goes far beyond sponsoring alone. What's also extremely important, and also a goal of this project, is the transfer of know-how from Switzerland to Malaysia. As many as 14 Petronas engineers are in training with us and employed on this project. Having its own engine department, the team's no longer dependent on a supplier. It's a major step forward, because being dependent on particular engine suppliers can create serious problems for a Formula One team. When Sauber first went into Formula One in 1993, the engines were supplied by Ilmor. A year later it was Mercedes. Mercedes wanted to see success fast, something that these days simply isn't possible in Formula One. There was no way of preventing the split-up. The next cooperation partner was Ford. Johnny Herbert and former Sauber driver Heinz-Harald Frentzen repeatedly proved that the chassis was more competitive than the engine. With the Ford engines, Sauber won 7th place in the Constructors' World Championships in 1995 and 1996. But despite this, Ford decided to collaborate with the new Stewart team, and the search for a new engine supplier was on again. Finally, in signing a cooperation agreement with Ferrari, Peter Sauber landed a big fish, a source of great satisfaction for the likeable Swiss, who won't stand for any crooked business even in Formula One. It's almost as if he avoids publicity. But the more successful he is, the more he attracts. He's an exception in the Formula One ring, where the gloves are off often enough. If you take the English teams as being typical, and that's certainly right, well, we're not typical. Even our location in Switzerland is unusual. And of course that affects us in various ways. Perhaps it makes us a bit more like a family, a bit less harsh. People say we're too honest. Well, that's the way we are. Red Bull Sauber Petronas, an out-of-the-ordinary team in the Formula One scene. Does things a bit differently. For instance, at this year's presentation, a show that every team organizes in its own way to project a particular image in public. The title of the event was Symphony of Luck. As part of an extravagant performance, Peter Sauber was presented with a heart, symbolizing good luck. Some people thought it a bit provocative. What has success in Formula One got to do with luck? And that wasn't the only unusual thing about the day. The Symphony of Luck brought two other unlikely partners together: Formula One and classical music. Two apparently conflicting things were brought into harmony. A successful attempt to break through conventions, courageous and very much out of the ordinary. The backdrop? Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. In the city of Mozart, classical music's at home, but that wasn't why Vienna was chosen as the venue. In fact, Red Bull Sauber Petronas isn't a Swiss team. Seen on the basis of ownership, it's Austrian. Red Bull doesn't only sponsor the team, it also owns 51% of it. When Red Bull became a partner in 1995, Dietrich Mateschitz fulfilled a long-cherished ambition. Another high point in the career of a man who brought the energy drink with the Jelly Baby flavor to Europe. It was Fritz Kaiser who set up the cooperation. Gerhard Berger's advisor for many years, he's now Peter Sauber's marketing partner. The team's international, and so are its stars. For 1998, Sauber have a highly interesting combination of drivers. With newcomer Jean Alesi, the team is much stronger. Up to the end of last season, the charismatic Frenchman had driven 135 Grand Prix, the most experienced driver in Formula One. On the basis of experience, Johnny Herbert is number 2 on the Formula One circuit. Ever since he signed with Sauber in 1996, he's been one of the mainstays of the team. Now, with Jean Alesi, he's once again got a stablemate who's his equal. Last season, the team was all too often only able to count on him, and thus only on one competitive driver. Reason enough for a rather disappointing result.
As we are a young team, we need any experience that's available on the market. I think for us as a young team and young drivers, doesn't make sense. We don't make the progress we need to have. Last year, all the burden of testing and development was on Johnny's shoulders. And every human being has sometimes a bad day. And if you just rely on somebody and you're just lost with one driver. And I hope just to get double feedback, maybe hopefully from two directions, but it will help us for the development. And on the other hand, maybe it's stupid to think we can score twice the points just because we have two drivers the same level. That's not the case. But last year, if Johnny was out of the race, we are nothing, not just tourists then.
In any event, Jean Alesi, the star of the media, will attract more publicity. Like the team, he's an unusual phenomenon in Formula One. Since parting company with Benetton, he sees new perspectives with Sauber.
The challenge is the possibility to improve the results of a team who work in Formula One now since 6 years, I think. And they have a good budget, they have everything ready to do it. Just maybe what they need is two drivers pushing on the same direction to make a real improvement, a real collaboration with a chief designer.
And the second new face, Jörg Müller, will also bring the team new strength. Like Jean Alesi, he's a darling of the media. And like Alesi, he has driver's qualities. As substitute driver and test driver, the young German plans to help bring the team on. What's important above all is to have a good substitute. As we saw last year, it's very bad if a regular driver drops out and there's no substitute who's as good and the team wins no points. I probably won't get much opportunity for test driving at the beginning of the season because obviously the regular drivers will want to do their own test driving to get to know the car and the way it's tuned. So my work will probably only really begin in the course of the season. First and foremost, the drivers have to be quick. But their job involves more than that. They represent their team in public, so PR dates are just as much part of the schedule as races or tests. And on some days, the schedule's a heavy one. In the morning, a photo session for a Swiss sponsor.
Mr. Alesi, een beetje zo. Ja, goed, sehr goed. Tip-top.
Emil Frey AG puts two cars at the regular driver's disposal for their private use. And on to the next appointment. The sponsors are well aware that the drivers are the crowd pullers for their PR. And again, the photographers ask them to pose for a group portrait. For the Boimler men's fashion company, the drivers even slip into the role of models. Jean Alesi and Johnny Herbert will appear in full-page ads in fashion magazines. The sponsors' executives are very satisfied. It gives us a platform to project our image worldwide. We think that via Formula One we'll gain an international presence, and we can't achieve that with any other medium than Formula One. It's a fact that hardly any other sport achieves ratings as high as Formula One. Worldwide, only the Olympic Games and the World Cup in soccer attract bigger audiences. But Formula One meetings are much more frequent, an ideal platform for advertising with global target groups. To keep fans and the media up to date, most Formula One teams these days have a homepage in the internet. Bull Sauber Petronas fans can download news on tests and races, enter their names and make comments in a visitor's book, and much more besides. A homepage with wide-ranging appeal that more and more fans and journalists are using. Above all, the media go for the drivers. They all too easily overlook the fact that Formula One's more a team sport than any other. The drivers are backed up by a whole army of highly qualified mechanics and engineers. And it's mainly them who are responsible for the drivers' best lap times. Regardless of whether for tyres or for transmitting vehicle data, there are specialists for every task. And only when everything's running as smoothly as a Swiss watch is success possible. And then there's a sophisticated logistics system. also indispensable in Formula One. All the highly sensitive equipment is packed time and again for testing and races. For Grand Prix meetings, there are 2 trucks that transport nearly 20 tons of parts and equipment. But even so, all this effort's wasted if the drivers can't turn it into success on the track. And they're under close scrutiny to see if they do. As dusk falls, the C-17 completes the final laps of the day. With unfailing precision, the technicians record the behavior of car and driver. Ever more sophisticated systems process mountains of data. The position of the accelerator, acceleration values, temperatures, they're all recorded and interpreted for the engineers.
Here, for instance, on the circuit, we can show what a parameter is doing during a lap. But we have other possibilities, like showing the evolution of the value of one parameter with time, or more parameters on the same view to see a bit how every parameter goes together. And a third possibility is, for instance, looking at comparing the same parameter during 2 different laps for seeing what is the effect of a modification, for instance.
Nothing's left to chance. Fortunately, though, there are still enough imponderables that can't be registered with computers. Grand Prix aren't won on the test track. No one can predict exactly what will happen in the race. The drivers, the weather, technical faults. There are plenty of other factors to keep us on the edge of our seats. And looking at it this way, it seems logical that Sauber started the season with a symphony of luck. Because every success needs a bit of luck, however hard you work for it.